These my dollars make it hurt.
Welcome back to a Week 5 DK lineup edition of the Deep Cover Podcast. I'm your host, Kerry Stevenson. Like I always say, shout out to my boys, my brothers, Chris Aguilera, Mike Crawford. If you're new listener, do us a huge favor. Like this video, obviously, and subscribe to the channel. We're trying to do a lot of great content, in combination with the Two Guys Watching Football platform, our other brother, Dinar, with the Fire Zone show. So, this is a huge help for us, these likes and subscribes and, engage with us. So, definitely appreciate the people that do. If you're not yet and you're partaking in the content, then just give us a little bit more of your time. Shoot us a like. Those kind of things gonna help us a lot. So, as I like to do, before I go ahead and move ahead to week 5, I like to look back at week 4, kind of look at some of the things that happened. Had some good things happen with the lineup. Jonathan Taylor gave us 23 points at some lower exposure. So, that was, solid play there with him going up against that Dolphins run defense. DJ Moore went off, 8, 113 and 2 line, ended up with 34 points. The Jets pulled off that upset against the Titans. I was, super excited about playing that play at 2K. Their defense ended up with 7 sacks. Ended up scoring 7 points, and nobody told me I couldn't take that as a win. So I'm taking it as a win. Anytime you got a flat minimum defense when everybody's playing Henry, which Henry still got there and did his thing. But I consider 7 points at 2K. I'll take that as a slight win. So Jets defense ended up being more popular than what I thought they were going to be, which was interesting. But nonetheless, I'm taking that win at 7 points. So I'm taking that one. Um, Dak, Dak got there with the TDs, and then he, had a few rushing yards. Ended up getting 27 points, but the volume there really hurt us. Less than 200 yards passing. They didn't really need it with the way they pounded the Panthers, um, in the running game. But yeah, that volume, man, we double stack with CD Lamb and Amari Cooper. The one tragic thing, man. Those who listened last week, they know I swapped out live. I had McLaurin in the lineup, and I live swapped to CD Lamb as a way to try to get different in that game because I knew a lot of people were gonna stack that game. So, and I knew they were gonna pick one or the other with Lamb or Cooper. And as a way to try to get different, I said, let me try my hands with both. And so I got burned there. Lamb ended up with 3 points. Terry McLaurin ended up with 33 points. So that one hurt us big time. Tragic, swap there. I did end up playing McLaurin in this lineup in a separate lineup when I played my lineups on DK. But still, for this particular lineup, that one hurt big time. Amari Cooper got the TD, but still 3 catches for 69 yards isn't really going to get us where we want to go. Um, the Cleveland Browns guys, Chubb, he had the game we talked about, the game that we feared. 100 yards rushing, but minimal targets and no TDs. That'll get you there in a cash game situation. But in a tournament, the things that we're trying to get accomplished, that's not really going to do it. OBJ looked good, had some opportunities, especially one downfield. Baker Mayfield missed them on. He just really got failed by, a bad performance by Baker Mayfield. So I'll live with the process on that, of how I got there. I know some people didn't like that play as much as others. I wasn't one of those guys. I really liked OBJ, his upside, and then I thought with Landry being out, I thought they would use him more, and they did that previous week in the slot some. I thought that would help his target floor. but just didn't work out in this particular lineup. Um, Will Disley had 5 more yards than I did last week. So obviously that's not gonna help us much. So 2 catches, 5 yards for him, not gonna get it done. Lineup as a whole, 133.62 points last week. It's not good, guys. That's it's not gonna get it done. But another week equals another opportunity. So let's go ahead and move on to week 5. We're gonna jump right into it. So early in the week, when I'm trying to kind of figure out what my plays are going to be, I'm always trying to identify the leverage points early when I'm trying to build lineups. And I also like to try to check my biases. We all have them, and so I think it's important to check in on them and make sure that your biases aren't in any way hampering your play. So I'm starting this lineup as kind of a combination of those two things, those two thought processes. A game I like a lot is Minnesota and Detroit, and Kirk Cousins is a guy that I expect to be popular, amongst the sharp players this week. Matchup is a great one. He had that weird down game last week. He's not super expensive. So checks a lot of boxes, man. A lot of times, it's a recency bias thing. If the guy has a down week last week, I almost like to play some guys like that just off of the strength of that, because I know people aren't going to be as bullish to play them the following week. So, um, with that being said, I'm using that as a pivot point, and I'm gonna go with Jared Goff here in this lineup. So I've been paying up at quarterback a lot, and I've also been looking heavily for Russian production when I'm building lineups. But I don't want to let that box me out of missing out on value. So Golf here, I think, uh, represents a value. I think he's quietly been pretty good, at least statistically. Um, which obviously that's what we care about first and foremost. Fantasy football, we're looking at stats. Um, I expect a negative game strip in this game. It even could be a super negative game script, just based off of Detroit being so down on defense with um, losing pass rushers, losing guys in the secondary, um, and I expect Minnesota to bounce back in a big way. So I could see them getting really down in this game. And the last time we saw Detroit in a super negative game script, Golf had 57 pass attempts, and he turned that into 338 yards and 3 touchdowns against the 49ers. So I like his chances here. I think uh, at the very least, he's looking at uh, high 30s, lower 40s as far as attempts. This Vikings defense has given up the ninth most passing yards in the league this season, not counting the Rams and the Seahawks who have that extra game. Obviously, they played on Thursday. And his price here allows us uh, the freedom to kind of do some things, across the board, while and still tap into a game which I think will be popular, and I think it will be one that's fruitful from a fantasy standpoint. So I'm gonna go ahead and plug Golf into the lineup here. Obviously, we're gonna stack them, but I'm gonna go to the running back position to do so, and I'm gonna plug in Deandre Swift here. Um, this pick is kind of showing, the growth that needs to take place if you're gonna be playing fantasy every week. Because Swift really put me in a bind last week. I had a lot of them. Um, and it didn't go well. So your boy is out here evolving. I'm going right back to him. Um, the real bind I got in with him last week was I had him and I had David Montgomery um, in my player grouping. Um, I like Swift more, and I didn't want to play Swift and Montgomery together. I don't want to play two running backs in the same game, really. Um, so all my Swift lineups, I couldn't put Montgomery in there. And so obviously, I got killed there. Swift was quiet, and Montgomery went off. But outside of that, I like what's going on with Swift. 73% of the snaps. He's running a lot of routes. He's getting red zone work. This is a Vikings defense we attacked on the ground last week with the Chubb pick. Chubb got 100 yards, just couldn't get in the end zone. Because this Vikings defense they're getting rocked from a yards per carry perspective. With their run defense. Um, Now the offensive line injuries on the Lions side do concern me. Um, but I think in this one with um with Swift having that pass catching floor, 7 targets per game, that makes me a little bit more comfortable with this play, and I think he's going to be one of the main vehicles in the passing game for golf. So going Swift there. Um, Now here's where I get conflicted. Now I knew early in the week that golf was going to be one of my options for this lineup. Just when I did my initial kind of research. But when I was doing my stat, Hawkinson was always in it. Now Hawkinson's status is a little bit in doubt for the game. So that's one factor um, that's kind of weighing heavily on me right now. Um, and then another factor is with the defense this week. There's not really like cheap defenses that I'm really into, which to me makes it harder to pay up at tight end. Although Hawkinson is not paying all the way up, but relative to some of the other guys that are on this slate, he's a pay up option. So those two factors, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm just gonna single stack golf at this point. Try some other things, tried to mess around with it. I just didn't like what I was seeing and coming up with, and I'm trying to get out of a mode of forcing certain things just for the sake of forcing it. So this could be a game where golf kind of spreads it around a bit. Cephas could get his. Um, Amon-Ra St. Brown could get his. Hawkinson obviously could still get his, but we have to make sure he plays first. So there's options to do that. I may run a variation where I throw one of those cheaper guys in. Amon-Ra St. Brown or Cephas or Raymond or somebody like that. But for the purpose of this particular lineup, I'm just going to go with a single stack. Um, gonna leave it here for Detroit, but I am gonna run it back, and I'm gonna run it back with Justin Jefferson. Guys got touchdown in 3 straight games, a secure target share, um, just a mismatch from a talent perspective. I just talked about how down the Lions have been from a talent perspective on that defense. They were that way going into the season. Now they've lost, Akuda and some of the guys on the defensive line. They're just really hurting there. So, this is a time to take advantage of that. And so you give Justin Jefferson 8 to 10 targets in a matchup like this where it's just a complete mismatch, and you could be looking at absolute fireworks. I think he has one of the highest ceilings on all of the slate. So, I'm gonna go Justin Jefferson here and plug him in. And so got that game stack going. Uh Now I'm gonna try to fill that other RB spot. And so I'm going with a guy that's kind of getting lost in the shuffle a bit. He fumbled last week, lost some work last week. He's kind of expensive, but he's not at the top of the list as far as expensive guys. And but he has an upside nearly as high as any RB on the slate. And that's Aaron Jones. Still very involved in the passing game, great red zone role, secure carry, secure share of the carries in an efficient Aaron Rodgers led offense. Those things put him on the short list of guys that can score multiple TDs in a game. So, like going to him here, especially if he's going to have lower exposure because of some of those things I mentioned. So I'm going to plug Aaron Jones here in this lineup at running back. Now I want to run this back because this is a game I really, really like. And, going to run this back with the Cincinnati pass catcher. And that's going to be Jamar Chase. No Zaire Smith. Sorry, not Zaire Smith. Jair Alexander. How did I get that? No Jair Alexander is huge here. The rest of those cornerbacks super vulnerable. Zadarius Smith, the pass rusher, is out. Packers are 30th in the league in sats. Middling adjusted sat rate. Um, just big time upside for this Bengals passing offense. And the Mason could play, but it sounds like if he does play, he's going to be super limited. So I think that's another bonus for this passing offense. So, obviously can't do it here because I already have golf, but play a lot of Joe Burrow this week. He's going to be a center of what I'm doing this week because, I mean, everything just lines up very well for him. And then with Burrow, give you a little bonus here. 8 rush attempts in the last 2 weeks. So he's showing the willingness now to run, a little bit more, getting comfortable coming back from that injury. So that's an added bonus. So definitely play Joe Burrow, but for the sake of this lineup, going to one of the pass catchers, going Jamar Chase. I like all three of the guys, Chase, Higgins, and Tyler Boyd. But I think Chase has the biggest upside. So I'm gonna go Jamar Chase here. And so got another little mini game stat there. So moving along, another staple of what I'm going to be doing this week is AJ Brown in that Titans Jaguars game. Maybe it's a little wishful thinking with AJ Brown because I have him in every one of my redraft leagues this year. So really need him to start balling out. But this is a great opportunity for him to do just that. Playing this Jazz defense, they've given up the third most yards to receivers this season. And that's not counting the Seahawks and Rams because obviously they pay the extra game. But of the teams that have played 4 games, the Jaguars have given up the third most yards to receivers. Obviously there's no Julio Jones in this game. AJ Brown before he got hurt had 8 targets and 9 targets in week 1 and week 2 with Julio on the field. Now he's in the game without Julio, and he's priced at that same 6,500 price. So obviously there's some risk there with him returning from injury, but the fact that he practices in full this week makes me feel like he's pretty good from a physical standpoint. Maybe there'll be some kind of limiting of him from a snap perspective, but I don't think it'll be, overly pronounced where he's just playing 40% of the snaps or something like that. I think he'll be a close to full time player in this matchup, and from a target perspective, he should flirt with double digit targets, if not more. And he's a guy that's super efficient that he's shown time and time again he can get there um, with the lack of targets, a lack of high ceiling of targets, I should say. So feel real good about AJ Brown this week. So plugging him in. Tight end was one where I just been trying to find something different all week. There's a lot of mid to low price options that I think will be pretty popular this week. Mike Gesicki, Ricky Seals Jones is 2,500. I'm going to be playing a lot of him, I'm sure. Cam Braid at 3,300. Jared Cook at 3,600. Just to name a few. Um, but I've been trying to find that pivot, like I said, in that range. And I think I found him. It's a guy that I put my stamp on when I did the tight end tiers, and that's Hunter Henry. Hasn't been pretty always, but the uses have been there. The role has been there. He's playing a ton of snaps. He's top 10 in routes run at tight end this year. Last week he had 5 targets and was able to get in the end zone. And now he gets a great matchup against a Texans team, zone defense. We love that for tight ends. And the Texans defense is giving up the second most points per game to tight ends this season. So, like going Hunter Henry here as a pivot that can, maybe give you 5 for 50 and a touchdown, somewhere in that range. And we're praying and hoping that these other, popular, cheaper tight ends in that range bust. So I'm going Hunter Henry. You could go Jonnu Smith here, and you could do variations where you go with Jonnu Smith instead of Hunter Henry. What I've noticed with Jonnu is that with Kendrick Bourne getting more snaps, Jonnu Smith's snaps are going down. Nothing crazy. I mean, you can still play him because when he's on the field, they do seek to target him. He does get scheme touch opportunities. So from a target perspective, he probably shouldn't be too far behind Henry. But I'm just going to trust that the guy that's on the field more. So and I put my stamp on him, so I gotta stay on brand. So um, you can go with either one, but I'm gonna go with Henry for the purpose of this lineup. So let me find this game. There we go, and I'm gonna plug Henry in here. Then go to my flex spot. Guy I like here, Kadarius Toney. Kadarius Toney showed some good things last week. The Giants made it a point to get him the ball last week, and he showed that electric open field ability. He still. I tweeted about this, but he still got a lot to iron out from a fundamental standpoint. But cats just don't move like him, man. Matt Wallman pointed out some of the stuff that he's able to do with his ankle flexion and just his movement skills. Um, is just it's crazy, man. It's unparalleled. He's super talented dude. At 4K, Slayton and Shepard are both going to be out again this week. This is a game where I expect them to be playing from behind. So I like Kadarius Tony's opportunity to do some good things for us at that 4K price point. And then it gives us a cheap way to get into this game that is going to be pretty popular. It's going to be a lot of Daniel Jones stacks and Saquon Barkley, run backs with Lamb and Cooper, Dak stacks. Gonna be a lot of people, playing this game. So I like to get a lower radar piece of it with Kadarius Toney, plugging him into that flex spot. This is a spot where I could go with one of the other Detroit pass catchers, and maybe I will, do that. Amara St. Brown here, 3,500. Actually, that's really the only one I can do, off of this construction. So I could do that, if I wanted to, just as more of a correlated piece to what I'm doing with golf at quarterback. So that's an option. But I like Tony a lot, like his upside. So I'm gonna go with Tony there, and then defense. Defense, like I said, defense is one of those things that I like the pay up options a lot this week, especially Denver and Tampa Bay. And then as far as the pay down options, Washington football team is going to be uber popular this week at 2,300. Not sure if I'm going to go there very much in tournaments. Um, so that kind of leaves you with more kind of limited options. Um, but I like the Raiders this week. Going up against a shaky Bears O line and a rookie quarterback who is still learning and still prone to kind of holding on to the ball too long, and there could be some mistakes there. So and I like Justin Fields. So I think both can kind of coexist at the same time. Justin Fields can go out there and make some plays with his legs and do some things downfield, and this Raiders defense can also get there from a fantasy perspective by getting a sack fumble or two, and getting a pick or two, getting um, in range for a defensive touchdown. Those sack fumbles and picks. Those are the plays that are gonna turn into defensive touchdowns. So um, I like the Raiders at this price. Another defense I really like at this price is Dallas at 2,800. So they're an option, but obviously with me going Tony, I'm not gonna go Tony and Dallas defense. So that's it, man. We're gonna close it out here. Again, thanks for listening. And again, do us a huge favor. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. Good luck to everybody in week 5, and go out there and get you some bread. See you week 6.